from their encounters with races from other planets. The information is the activation. Let's awaken this world together. We are the forever students, and we will not be silent. We are the ones that we've been waiting for. It's pretty wild. Welcome, everybody, to Full Spectrum Universe. My name is Rob Yox. We are the embattled broadcast that has stuck it out through all the crazy of this world to bring you a presentation this evening about the sphere of Amenti and soul ascension. But we are the broadcast that explores the past to remain in the present, to dictate the terms of what our future looks like. Welcome, 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 everybody. I see we've got a couple people here tonight so far. We're going to let some of the other people come in very shortly. But, you know, one of the things I want to just talk about right off the bat is a good friend of ours and brother to this podcast, Omar, from Watchers Talk. If you haven't been following Facebook, has decided that after 10 years, he is going to hang up his microphone and his camera. And before we get into this presentation and talk about some of this galactic information, I just want to give him a quick shout out and show Omar how much we appreciate him, how much he has given to this community, and how affected we all have been by the information that he has brought. He is by far one of the best presenters and one of the best researchers that I know. I may not be here if not for Omar and Watchers Talk. It was actually the first platform that I went live on video to speak my points of interest. And we will forever, we will forever use the light that Omar has shined during his time at Watchers Talk to infuse that light into each and every broadcast that has been and each and every broadcast that will be. So the legacy of Watchers Talk will forever live on in all of us, in all of our hearts, and in all of our actions moving forward. And the information that he brought was paramount. Now, there are some future endeavors that Omar will be partaking in, and I wish him absolutely the most luck, appreciation, and success in whatever he does after this. It was kind of a sad day to hear that this morning, but we will carry on. We will carry on in the way that Omar did for 10 years, and we will carry that torch to the promised land and what needs to come next. So, with all that being said, my brother, I love you. I appreciate you. I probably wouldn't be here if not for you. And I just I hope you and wish you the best for you and your family. And I am truly honored to have worked with you when you were here on cameras and microphones. You know, you're still with us, of course, but and hopefully once in a while to come out of retirement so that we can, kind of put an event together here and there, maybe, or give a presentation just to, keep us a little bit in the loop. But we'll see for the future. So tonight we're going to be talking about the sphere of Amenti and soul ascension. Now, we went over a little bit the last time of the certain entities that were essentially stepping down into this reality. And when I mean this reality, the 3D reality, and how they use the portal mechanics and the different races that were now becoming physical races and the genetic lineage of these, these creators or these overseers of 5-dimensional Tara and, Gaia itself to come down and build the 3D man. And that's kind of where we're going to focus in on tonight. Now, the Sphere of Mente also has a time travel component to it because 3D Earth is in the past compared to the 5D Earth. 5D Earth is our future. And what I mean by that, it's a figuratively, but it's also a literally, right? So the figuratively is like our higher selves reside within that 5th dimensional density, which means that that higher self is on Gaia as we speak. But we're still here as a fractal of that higher self in the 3D reality, right? So we're going to jump into a presentation on that, and it's just incredible that we're here tonight. I told you we're going to hit the ground running after the new year, and I was in Texas for a week, and I was visiting family, recharging the battery a little bit for the holidays because I work through the holidays, so it's not easy for me to get to see them. So I went down there for my father's 70th birthday, and mom and dad, if you're listening, I love you and I miss you already. Um, Please like, share, subscribe if you haven't. And also, please, when this stream is finished, leave a comment underneath the video. You have no idea how much that helps push this video onto the algorithm so other people can see it, right? And again, we're going to be talking about some really wild stuff tonight that's going to connect a lot of dots for a lot of people, even if they don't understand the information fully. So let's jump right into it. We're going to make that the full screen because my face is not important. The information is what's important. So last time we talked about the portal mechanics and the Terranites, right? Now, the Terranites essentially were working within the first harmonic universe and the second harmonic universe. Now, just to go back a little bit, there were some entities which were called the Branau Rishi, which are beings of pure consciousness from the fifth harmonic universe, and they were petitioning specific places to, you know, help with this recovery effort, right? This rescue mission. And the rescue mission is an Amenti rescue mission. And we talked about the Azarites, the Antonat, the Adamites, and the Brigidettes, and the genetic lineage of how they came to be. There were certain entities that were coming down in frequency, just to sum it up in a nice little ball. And what they were doing was they were interbreeding, which gave us these sort of root races. Now we're going to get into the actual root races, which is the Hyperboreans, the Aryans, things like that. And we're going to talk about those a little bit more in the 3D sense. So the Uranites and the Covenant of the Palador, which we talked about, which was the Syrians, the Rock Confederacy, the all these different entities that were up in the second harmonic universe and some in the third. So they basically time traveled because they had to go back in time to get into the first harmonic universe. This is how we end up where we are right now, right? So 3D is the reality right now. 5D is the future reality. 7D is even further into the future. So it goes in waves, but it's also a dimensional density difference too. There is aspects of this that we can go over for hours that change the dynamics of how these entities reside within these dimensional frequencies, right? Because some are pure consciousness, some are physical, some are non-physical. There's so many different ways we can describe all the entities that reside within these different dimensional densities. So as we keep going here, these basically the first harmonic was a place in time and space in a coordinated position. And it was just after we talked about the fall of Tara, right? And the fall of man, which means that the souls on Tara were sent down into frequency and essentially pushed into a reincarnation cycle, which was not their own. So once on Earth, okay, with the help of the Syrian Council, this group of Uranites or Terranites transmuted their body forms into pure energy, which is the Keylontic science, right? And merged into gestulate energy fields of consciousness, which served as the morphogenetic field or the 12-strand DNA Terranusium race prototype. Also contained within this morphogenetic field were the Keylontic time codes. Those are electronical frequency patterns, right? Of this pre-cataclysmic time and space and the coordinates of Tara itself, which is why us as 3D individuals are connected to that higher self which resides on Tara. These morphogenetic fields and these 12-strand the 12-strand DNA from the Terranusium and our prototype genetics essentially integrates with our morphogenetic field, and that morphogenetic field keeps us in contact with our higher self at all times, right? All we have to do is access it through our DNA. So basically, this would allow Tara to reassemble the lost portions of its grid that came through the hole in the sun that opened up in the fifth dimensional density, which brought basically transported the planets into our solar system, right? So now Tara is reforming itself. And this is basically within the fabrics of time, right? So with the assistance of the Rock Confederacy, this gestulate of consciousness and genetic and planetary morphogenetic fields was entered into the remaining morphogenetic field of Earth through the 11th and 14th dimensions. So this morphogenetic field of consciousness energetically took on the shape of a sphere and was called the sphere of Amenti, named after the portions of Tara's morphogenetic field that contained the imprint for Mu and its inhabitants. So Amenti was the part of Tara's planetary core that connected energetically to the portals upon the continent of Mu. Now, again, we can see Mu in fifth density Tara, right? We can see that. But we also see Mu in the third density potentially as well. They could be basically shifting between both. There's a lot to be discussed when we talk about Mu and how they were an advanced civilization in a pre dynastic time, which kind of created the center of religion or spirituality on this planet. So there's a lot to go over with that too. And that's kind of why we did full presentations of Mu, Atlantis, Lemuria before we actually got into this information. Everything that we're talking about over the last 9, 10, 12, 11 episodes is now dovetailing back into the history to give us a more robust understanding of how this history plays out. But we can also pick it up right here from this point, watch this video individually, and get an idea of what we're talking about, right? So as we keep going here, just to keep us on pace with what we're doing, I can do this too, which I don't really think you need to see me too much. I think that that's more important. So as we move on, these by placing the sphere of Amenti within the core of Earth, or basically a wormhole or portal link, was established between the Earth's core in Dimension 2 and Tara's core in Dimension 5. Though numerous other portals between Earth and Tara existed, these had become unstable and their operations unpredictable following this fall. So the sphere of Amenti would create this, well, first it would create opulence, but a stable portal structure that, once operational, would stabilize the other portals and allow open transit between Earth and Tara for beings possessing the genetic codes that could endure this portal transit, right? So the sphere of Amenti would link into the space time of Tara's pre fall past. So, with this sphere placed within Earth, as Earth's revolved through the dimensional ascension and back into the Tara grid, it within it, the morphogenetic imprint from this sphere, a link between the future Tara and the pre-cataclysm past would be reestablished. Now, what does this mean, right? This was essentially a link point from post-cataclysm Tara, Earth three-dimensional, and the past Tara before the cataclysm. So it was cyclistic, right? So it would go from post cataclysm to Earth, back as like a redirect to pre cataclysm, right? So this would reestablish Tara's past and would be reattached within the time matrix grid and Tara's future's time cycles. So through the sphere of Amenti, a bridge was constructed between Tara's pre-cataclysm past and future track cycles of time. When a planet undergoes such a trauma, having a portion of its grid blown apart Not only does it lose the portions of its evolutionary history stored within the cellular memory of those parts that blew away, it also loses a portion of its energetic thrust. And without the thrust, the planet cannot evolve out of its harmonic universe and into the next, right? We are a first harmonic universe trying to evolve into a second harmonic universe civilization. So the planet and most of its life forms on it became trapped in the fabric of time. So the sphere of Amenti not only gave them hope for a continual evolution of the human and Terranusium lineage, it helped it held the hopes of ascension and continued evolution for Earth and Tara and their seventh dimensional counterpart, which again is Gaia, which is why we're showing you what you're seeing right now. If one was trapped in time, they would all be trapped in time because they are representative of each other, right? So the only other option available in such cases of planetary morphogenetic field fragmentation is that a host matrix transplant, and we've touched on that before as well, and this operation is exceedingly difficult to achieve on a planetary level. So each of the 12 planets in the first harmonic universe that emerged as a result of Tara's fragmentation and these planets all received a similar morphogenetic sphere from the Paladorians to fulfill the same purpose, right? But here, we're only concerned with the sphere of Amenti for right now. And as through it, Earth became an ascension planet, now we're able to achieve dimensional ascension through re-evolution. That's why this is important, right? Truly, this is just wild to think about. Awesome. I see a lot of people here tonight. I see Jason, I see Pamela, I see Dan, I see Stephanie, I see Line, I see Jason again, Julie, Moshi, and the Edis again, D. I'm just going to call you D. Welcome, everybody. Please, again, share this out. It's important we get here. So, the sphere of Amenti and the Soul Ascension rescue mission. This is where we get to the rescue mission that perpetrates our past. Now, the sphere of Amenti was entered into Earth's core with the second dimensional frequency bands, often called the cave of creation. About 550 million years ago, from a position in his second harmonic universe, this space and time that existed before the Earth existed, within that second harmonic universe time track, the rescue mission of Tara's, lost souls was beginning before those souls became lost, right? So, in terms of linear time, this is where we get to see where they go. So, it's practical within the structure of each time matrix, and through the covenant of the Palador and the sphere of Amenti, the souls of Earth can re-evolve back into their original 12D strand DNA body type. This process can be viewed as the Paladorians creating new bodies and new morphogenetic blueprints. And for now, formless consciousness fragments of fallen souls. So the sphere of Amenti morphogenetic field allowed for the Terranites to enter within the incarnation cycle on Earth and pick up the fragments of consciousness from the lost souls by pulling their energetic particles from the first harmonic universe unified fields and into the DNA, merging the consciousness of the soul fragments with embodied Terranite consciousness, thereby allowing this composite identity to evolve through a sentient life form back into its original soul matrix, the Terranusium 12 strand prototype. So they used human bodies, 3D human bodies, to pull in the genetic codes of the Terranites And this semblance of putting these two entities together within this sentient life is why we're able to ascend eventually back into the Terranusium 12 strand prototype. This evolutionary plan was not immediately set into motion, though. Through the sphere of Amenti, it was set within Earth's morphogenetic field 550 million years ago. So the Earth grid had to evolve and pick up grid speed before the sphere of Amenti could begin birthing its new races. So between 250 million years ago and 550 million years ago, various other species seeded by the first harmonic universe, or ET visitors, evolved on Earth, some of whom became members of the plant family, the animal family, and the insect kingdom, right? Various groups of etheric beings without matter or density also spent time on this planet. The races of the sphere of Amenti finally began to appear on Earth about 250 million years ago. Before their appearance, more intergalactic wars were fought by races who did not want the covenant of Palador to be fulfilled. These wars were primarily fought on Terra, becoming part of a long history of confrontations that were simply termed the Terran Wars. Once the Earth territory was secured, the Euroterranites of the sphere of Amenti began birthing on Earth. This began what came to be known as the Terranusium 2 or the T2 experiment. This represents the seeding of the 12 tribes out of which our present human lineage has emerged. So you see, there's a lot here, right? There is a lot here to talk about. So not only were we seeded from a different dimensional density, we were also seeded from extraterrestrials from outside, which is why they get caught within this incarnation cycle. And a lot of us are star seeds. So, this is the explanation for our ability to ascend to a higher plane of existence, but also why we are classified star seeds. All of that intergenetic material and that spiritual frequency is in conjunction with each other because of these outside instances where these entities came in. I see Omar is here in the chat. Everybody show love. Omar, we gave you a beautiful shout out in the beginning of this video, and we love you, brother. And we wish you nothing but the best on whatever the future holds for you. And, we're going to miss you, bud. So there's a lot to be said here. So let's keep going. Sorry, I'm a little stuffed up tonight, but we're gonna pursue. We're gonna persevere through this. So now we're talking about the halls of Amenti mentioned in the Emerald Tablets, right? By Thoth and some of the other entities. Now, these cloister races of parallel Earth, the second world, they call it, and a rescue mission to save what was left of the second harmonic universe beings being brought into the first harmonic universe. So, from the sphere of Amenti, 5 smaller spheres were created, which became the morphogenetic patterns for 5 races known as the cloistered races, right? Sounds like parallel Earths. Yeah? Right. So, collectively, the 5 cloister races were called the Paladorians, and they represented the beginning of fulfillment of the covenant of Palador. They represented the earthly counterparts to the larger Paladorian groups from the second harmonic universe. Of the original Terranusiums, the 12-strand DNA package, which Paladorian race held within this morphogenetic imprint for this DNA strand of 7 to 12, which held the uh, uh, electrotonal frequencies correspondent to dimensions 7 through 12, plus the imprint for the strand, which gave each of these 5 groups that they carried an imprint for an additional strand of DNA, corresponding to the dimensions of 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So the cloisters served as guardians for the evolution of the additional DNA strand to which they were assigned. Each race had 8 strands of DNA manifest within each body structure. So the five cloister races did not possess gender, nor did they originally possess the degree of matter density with which we're familiar with today. So density of form developed over time throughout the course of their evolution on Earth. So sometime between 250 million years ago and 25 million years ago, the 5 cloister races, which we can talk about here and call them by name, which we've heard these names spoken before. Number one was the Antarians, right? Brown skinned, and they had strand number 2. There was the Brenau, which were red skinned of the strand 3. Hibiru, white skinned strand 4. The Melchizedeks, which were yellow skinned and strand 5. And the Uniceti, which were black skinned and strand 6. So the cloister races populated the earth for many generations, creating various racial mixtures through which many of the lost souls of Tara were able to ascend. This period of the great civilization became known as the Second World, 250 to 25 million years ago. So within our present Native American culture, many of these souls ascended. Those who digressed returned to the sphere of Amenti for rebirth, and that rebirth was on Earth. In the particular universe, as members of these root races, the first world represented the original Terranusium cultures of Tara from 560 to 550 million years ago, and the Paladorian cloister races left no remnants in our present world, for they evolved within the faster moving time bands of Earth, so within the antiparticle universe. The morphogenetic fields of those races were drawn into our particular Earth, and out of these came the next stage of evolution. And a lot of these are what we know of the root races, right? Which is going to get to in a moment. Awesome. Awesome to see everybody here tonight. Great. Great. Everybody say hi. Let's get, questions if you have any. Just caps lock them if you can so I can see them. And this picture is sort of representative of these etherical root races of Gaia, which is going to be a major component in the next portion, right? So before the manifestation into embodiment on Earth, the 5 cloister races divided into 2 groups. One group held the DNA imprint for half of the first strand of DNA, which corresponds to dimension 1 frequencies, right? The other group held the remaining half of the first strand. This created the polarization and gender within the cloistered races' morphogenetic fields. Both groups held the dimensional codes and strands of the 7 through 12 dimensional densities. These 2 groups were seated on Gaia, and that starts in the 7th dimensional, 3rd harmonic universe. This was the counterpart to Tara and to Earth. These 2 races were the first 2 root races, which are the Polarians of Gaia and the Hyperboreans of Gaia. And they were in the antiparticle double, right? These beings were of a much less dense or etheric nature, but through their evolution on Gaia, 25 to 20 million years ago, the pathways of evolution through dimensional ascension were reopened for the lost souls of Tara. These races anchored the morphogenetic fields of dimensions 7 through 12 into dimension 1 and Earth, right? It's all cyclistic in nature. Through their evolution, the one strand of the 12 strand DNA package was pulled together in Earth's particles and connected the Taranusian morphogenetic field. So this is where we get to the next step, which becomes the Halls of Amenti. And the Halls of Amenti, Rescue Mission Stage 3, was approximately 25 million years ago, but this is what Thoth talks about. Now, Thoth may have been one of these fifth dimensional density beings who was reincarnated into the third dimensional density, but still had a connection all the way up to the seventh dimension. So he was able to see and access specific things that some of the other peoples who were on Earth at the time may not have been able to do, which is huge, right? It's huge, really, if we think about it. So we're here now, and we're going to talk about these next stages, which are tremendous. It's a tremendous, tremendous thing when we talk about these stages. I'm going to bring it back to me for a second because without Thoth and the Emerald Tablets, we wouldn't be able to reference this material to connect these dots, right? Now, whatever your feelings are for Thoth, some people like them, some people don't like them. That's not important, right? Sometimes we have to look past our own human nature to see the grander picture that's in front of us. And this is what I mean by this. Because they made reference to this material, this shows us that there is some sort of connection that deserves to be explored, even through meditation with where we reside in this grand scale of Earth, right? Gaia and Tara. Well, Earth, Tara, and Gaia. And we can keep going. There's one even above that, right? But we'll get to that in a much later episode. We're still working on the stuff here to get through this. But let us keep moving. So the morphogenetic consciousness of these five cloister races held within the sphere of Amenti began the third stage of seeding humans on Earth 25 million years ago. They opened the sphere of Amenti within the core of Earth in dimension 2, right? Not even third dimension yet, just dimension 2. And one thing I forgot to mention was, did you see that they referenced other races of ET being cataloged within the plants, the animals, and the insects of Earth? This is why I call Earth not a prison planet, an arc planet. And every sort of genetic information that resides within the entirety of our universe is on this planet. It is sent here to be stored like a giant Akashic record. So if ever a time comes where these extraterrestrial civilizations don't exist, they can come here, collect the genetic material, and reconstitute that race or that civilization however it's seen fit by the people who watch over everything, right? And maybe they're working directly with God. Who knows? But that's what Earth is, right? So now that this portal bridge is open to Tara's core in dimension 5, the portal that linked straight to Earth of 25 million years ago with the pre-cataclysm Tara, right, of 550 million years ago, working with the priesthoods of and Mu on Tara, the consciousness of those five cloister races created five other portal bridge extensions from the center of the sphere of Amenti. Each of the five opening into dimensional fields 2 through 6, right? And these fields represented positions in space and time within this time matrix. So stages of a planet or being will pass through, and it will basically put it on an evolutionary progression and a dimensional ascension. So the six portals from the sphere of Amenti, the original one 2 Terras past and the 5 new ones into various stages of Earth's future, linked Terra's past through various time periods on Earth into Terra's future, creating a new track in time through which Earth could re evolve into the fifth dimensional frequency bands and merge with Terra eventually, right? But once this merger was accomplished, Earth would become Terra. New lands would open up within Earth, right? Or upon Earth. And with the emergence of Earth and Terra, they would reclaim their energetic thrust that was lost in the fall, so evolution into the seventh dimensional Gaia could continue. The sixth portals in the sphere of Amenti also, right, allowed for the 5 cloister races to reincarnate into dimensional bands slash time fields 2 through 6, pulling into their consciousness and body forms the fragmented consciousness of the lost souls from each of those dimensional bands. So the time codes or frequency patterns from the first dimensional strand of DNA that have been built up through those root races 1 and 2 would link into the frequencies of the second dimension all the way through the sixth. So the consciousness within the sphere of Amenti would leave the morphogenetic field and express into manifestation as these root races within each of those dimensional bands 2 through 6. So there would be a root race in each of them, right? So through this pattern of building DNA through time, incarnates within each time period or dimensional band would be able to pull together the frequencies of their dimensional strand through a series of 24 incarnations or 212 cycles. They would be able to link with the morphogenetic field of their cloister race, pick up strands 7 through 12 from those cloisters, and pass through other cloisters and pick up the remaining root race strands, rebuilding the entirety of the 12-strand DNA package. So as the 12 DNA strands were assembled, the body form of the incarnate would progressively transmute into a less dense state and ascend into the second harmonic universe on Tara. So basically, they were going all the way up to come all the way back to ascend back to the middle, if that makes sense, right? Which is wild. That's a long trip. And who knows, maybe we're still on that path. And the fact that we're in the third density and we're ascending to the fourth and fifth density is just our way of climbing that ladder to go get to the top, reside there for a while, and then come all the way back and do it again. Each time coming through the cycle, taking a piece of that 12-strand original prototype DNA and integrating it back into our consciousness so that we can keep elevating through and through until we're absolutely complete, right? It's a potential, and we don't know. And I'm not going to sit here and say I do because I don't. But it makes sense when you think about it, right? We have past lives. Our past lives are within our genetics. Some on this planet, some not. Some within this dimensional density, some not. Some people have past lives of Mu in Atlantis and Lemuria, which took place potentially in Tara, which is the fifth dimensional density. So where are we, right? Where are we in this whole thing? Are we on our way, or are we coming back to just recover something and then we're going to go back up and stay there, right? And I think it makes a lot of sense because one time during a past life regression, and this is a personal story, and I know it's kind of, anecdotal because it's me. Somebody told me that for 50 years of time, I was an angel that was helping children cross over into the gates of heaven. Now, that could be an interpretation of what they saw or them trying to explain it. Now, again, I'm not an angel now. I'm not of that power, right? But they saw this. So what they did is they got a picture of something within their mind through my genetical code that essentially gave them a picture which they tried to describe. Was I truly an angel? Maybe, maybe not. Who knows? I don't know. But this is what they saw, and they relayed that message to me. And as terrible and sad as that sounds, that would be a place where a lot of good could be done, right? So who knows? But this could be why we go up and come back. Because if I had ascended to a place where I was almost angelic looking in nature, it would have to be a place where I would have shed my physical body and I would have been more of an etherical being at the time. So this is like where I'm kind of coming into this picture of it, right? So it makes it now reading this and going through this information, it makes a little bit more sense, doesn't it? I think it does. For me anyway. Again, to each their own. Maybe it's not hitting it profoundly as it is for you, but there's still a lot of great info here. So let us keep going. So the ascension occurred through the portal from the sphere of Amenti to which the incarnate's dimensional time band period was connected. Once passing through its dimensional portal into the sphere of Amenti, the incarnate could enter one of the other portal bridges and appear on Tara in a future time and space coordinate, becoming free from the first harmonic universe. And through this process, the consciousness of Tara's fragmented parts could be reunited to Tara's planetary grid piece by piece, progressively de-densifying the matter particles of Earth and transmuting them back into Tara's grid. So as the lost souls returned to Tara, so did the lost portions of Tara's morphogenetic field. So through these dynamics of this process, even though they're complicated, the principle is simple. The portals within the sphere of Amenti served as a time portal structure through which the lost substance or energetic thrust of Tara could be returned, and the lost souls of Tara could return to their original identity as souls incarnated upon the planet Tara. So in ancient Terran history, this planet had once long ago, and this is eons before 560 million years ago, the Terranusium seeding had been located within the first harmonic universe and had successfully evolved into the fifth dimension. And then again, the second harmonic universe as well. This fall represented a portion of Tara's being throwing back into its own past through which it had to re evolve in order for the planet to evolve into its natural future. So the portals within the sphere of Amenti operated as a warp in time through which the re evolution could take place a little bit faster. So the human lineage is an intimate part of the re evolutionary plan. And this plan is the underlining hidden dynamic and purpose for the present human evolution. This plan is part of a larger Terran Gaian evolutionary plan, which ultimately will lead to all consciousness involved returning to its source. So the sphere of Amenti contains the purpose and mechanics of humanity's evolutionary blueprint. The time portal structures within the sphere of Amenti regulate the processes of humanity's dimensional ascension and evolution or return to God. The portals within the morphogenetic field of the sphere of Amenti are known as the halls of Amenti. And if you remember from the Emerald Tablets, Thoth talks about this. He says that you can go to the Most High or the King of Kings and bask in his glow for hundreds of years until you are reconstituted in a sense that you are filled with light to then be thrust back out into the 3D world to interact with people, sometimes changing faces, sometimes changing skill set, all of that. That sounds like reincarnation over and over and over. He was telling us about this cave system, which would lead to the halls of Amenti, where this process was taking place, where only the gods roamed. Now, the gods could mean higher dimensional beings that are revered as such, right? Just like cavemen seeing a time traveler go back in space are going to revere him because the technology looks like almost godlike, right? So same goes for these primitive peoples that are seeing this spiritual ascension and saying, "What in God's name is happening? It must be magic," right? And they're also taking part in it too, which is kind of wild. So let's get back to the slide. And boop, there we go. So there are they are the dimensional passages and the dimensional passageways one must pass through in order to ascend from Earth and out of the time matrix and dimensionalized reality. The halls of Amenti have been a guarded secret since the time of our inception on Earth, and the priests of and Mu, and their earthly descendants, and the ET and the meta-terrestrial ancestors of the Taranusium lineage from harmonic universes 2 through 5, and have been the guardians of this secret since the time of its inception, 550 million years ago. Now, I think this is going to be a great place to pause for the evening because the next stage is a little bit longer, and we're going to be talking about the blue flame morphogenic field and the ivory gates of Tara, which is a huge section of what we're going to be talking about. So this information is so incredible and it's so overwhelming at first. Sometimes we have to read it a few times or listen to it a few times to absorb it all. But it's showing us the cyclistic nature of the universe, of who we are, and how it's all encompassing, right? And how we are on this journey still to this day. And it's up to us to determine where we reside, but also to keep moving up the line, right? Move to the fourth dimension, the fifth dimension, the sixth dimension. This is what we're set in motion to do. Now, if we focus on that and we don't focus on the mundane or the routine 9 to 5s, life becomes so much more of a journey and an adventure. And it becomes something that's forever increasing in its enormity, right? Because it's not just us, it's the entire planet. And we're all responsible for it. But now, that job you go to every day isn't the end all be all, right? It's not. There is so much left within this life or this dimensional reality to evolve ourselves, to find that peace and that calmness within us, to touch these greater dimensional densities and to understand who and what we are, which leads us to our truest potential, a human potential that started somewhat in 5D Terra, but not really, and moved all the way up to Gaia, and then back to 3D, and then we created bridges between all the two to fix it, right? So the universe is self-correcting with the help of those who watch over everything. And we can be a part of that too. We're now on a self-correcting course. That's why we're here. That's why we all came to this video right now to figure out what's the next step to help ourselves and others around us. And that's what we focus on. Our soul's purpose. Because everybody's is different, right? So, with all that being said, thank you so much for being here. I truly appreciate it. Please like, share, subscribe. Please share this out. Let's get this out everywhere. And please don't forget to leave a comment once this video goes off the air underneath, not in the live chat, but afterwards, because that helps the algorithm boost this out. We want this to touch as many people as possible. Truly, it's our duty to help humanity. And this is just one way. Whether I'm right or wrong does not matter. The information becomes the activation to dig further, which in turn helps people find themselves. And we want to do that for everybody. So we are the ones that we've been waiting for. And that information becomes the activation. I love you all so very much from the bottoms of my depths of my soul, the bottom of my heart. And I wish all of you a great rest of the week. We'll be back in a few days' time to keep going further. After the next a little bit more on the root races, we're going to get back into the electric wars and what that means for humanity. So, thank you all very much. Have a great evening.